Hey guys, it's Kira, and I wanted to give you guys a more in depth birth story and update about, postpartum, how I'm doing. Um, I have Ozzy here, a little milk drunk, trying to fall asleep. Anyway, so on January 21st, I was 39 weeks and 4 days pregnant. And I kind of just had this feeling for a long time that just like with Ford, I would go into labor 39 weeks and 4 days and have him the next day at 39 weeks and 5 days. It just kind of felt like that's what happened with Ford, so that's what's going to happen with this baby. But I mean, I didn't have any like evidence that was going to happen. I just had that in my head. And I'm telling you the power of suggestion, because my water broke at 7 a.m. My alarm went off, and I jumped out of bed because I felt fluid coming out of me. It was like my alarm woke me up at the same time that my water broke. Or maybe the alarm going off like startled my body and my water broke. I don't know. Either way, I didn't feel like the pop that I had felt in both my other pregnancies that my water had broken. So I was like, am I peeing myself or did my water break? And my bed is extremely high up. Like, I have to climb on a chair to get up into my bed. It was kind of a mistake. We bought we bought a bed frame that has like under bed storage, and it's a high, like, lofty bed, but then the mattress we bought is like a really deep mattress also. So the bed is just ridiculously high up. Like, we have to climb up into bed. But we spent so much money on it all that we were like, well, I guess we just have this ridiculous, like, just comically tall bed. So when I say I jumped out of bed, I mean I had to like throw myself out of bed. So when I landed, I was definitely peeing because it was the first thing in the morning. Sorry. But also, I had this water leaking out of me also. So it was a ton of fluid. I felt like I was peeing, but like I also couldn't stop. And I will say that amniotic fluid has a different texture to it. And I can't explain it more than that. It's kind of just something you got, if you understand what I'm saying, you understand it. And if not, I don't know, but it doesn't feel like water or pee. It's slightly thicker than that, if that makes sense. It's almost got a silky texture to this sounds so weird, but to me it felt like this was fluid, like amniotic fluid and not pee, but I could feel that I was peeing and I didn't feel the pop. And then like once it was over, it was over. I wasn't continuously leaking. I did all the things to like test it also, to see if it was my fluid leaking or if I had just peed myself. Like, I would empty my bladder and I would put a pad on, I would lay down, I would stand up and nothing would come out, or I would cough a few times. But at the end of pregnancy, everything is kind of leaky and wet and just extra fluidy, and I had been leaking mucus plug for a week at that point, like a lot. So I mean, it was really, really hard to tell. And it was funny because, not funny, but it was interesting because I had been praying that my water would break so that I just would know for sure it was labor. Then my water broke and it was more confusing than ever. But as the day went on, it was more and more obvious that it was my water breaking. And I would say by 4 or 5 o'clock, I was fairly convinced that it was my water, in fact, breaking. And like, I would get up and I'd be like leaking everywhere, soaking through pads and stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure by 6 or 7 o'clock, I knew. I mean, I didn't know, but I was like, I'm calling it. It was my water. So I called my husband home from work, called my midwife, because I still wasn't having any contractions. So by 8 o'clock at night, I was like, it's been over 12 hours. No contractions are starting. Let me just call and make sure that I'm supposed to just wait. And so I call my midwife, and she's like, you know what? You're almost you're almost 40 weeks. You've got preeclampsia now. That was something I found out when I went in. Like, it was very much borderline from hypertension to preeclampsia, but it was like developing into full-blown preeclampsia. So she's like, and yeah, this was your water. So when we got there, she's like, just come in and let's check it out. And then, because it's been over 12 hours, and let's just get stuff going. When I got there, they tested it and they're like, yeah, it's your water. So they were like, but you're not having contractions, so we're gonna like get it going. So they hooked me up to oxytocin. I said, epidural, please, because my last 2 births were without an epidural, and that's a beautiful thing. But that birth was kind of forced on me because they were just quick. And it was fine until I wasn't, and then it was time to push. So it was like no time for an epidural, and you just like deal with it. And I told myself, I'm not going to suffer through if they have to start inducing me. I'm going to get the epidural. If it's happening on its own and it's going to be fast, fine. But they had to start inducing me with oxytocin. So I said, epidural, please. Got that probably around 10:30. I got the epidural. And then around 11:30, my contractions really started picking up. And I think by 1 o'clock, I was feeling the pressure, but they would check me and he just was not moving down. He was at a -3 up until he came out. Like, he never came down. So I wasn't dilating super a lot. I was effacing and slowly dilating, but it really wasn't, like, my body was contracting so hard. I had the epidural and I have the nitrous. Nothing was touching the pain. I was writhing, screaming, out of control pain. With every contraction, my body was working so hard to bring him down, and he just wasn't moving down. He was comfy and up high. And then all of a sudden, he's coming out of me. My midwife pretty much delivered him with her hand up inside of me, like stretching my cervix with every contraction. And then I felt him. I told them he's coming out. I didn't even have to push. He just came out, which was amazing. It was 3:46 a.m. So my labor from like first contraction with the oxytocin to when he came out was probably about 4.5, 5 hours. It's a little confusing about like when labor really started because of being induced, and I don't really remember the time frame, but it was probably about 5 hours start to finish. And I did have a little first degree tear, but he came out and he is perfect. But I will say that the recovery, first, being in the hospital, Dan had to leave to go be with the kids because they had school, and we have a dog, and we've got 4 kids, and it's just a lot for anybody else to be responsible for. So I told him, I was like, the second night, not the night he was born, but the second night, I'm like, I will just be here with him. You go be with the kids. You know, Ford was really needing him and whatever. So that was a hard night because I didn't have anyone to hold him while I slept because he did not want to sleep in his bassinet. So I didn't have anyone to help me, and I was really, really tired. But because my body worked so hard to bring him down. The contractions were so intense and so hard. I am almost 2 weeks postpartum, and like I'll be 2 weeks postpartum tomorrow. I am just now barely able to like move. My body was so sore for so long. And I've been having a lot of hormonal headaches, but in general, like, I'm okay. But it's been a really, really hard postpartum period. I am blissfully happy to be here with my newborn, but it's not been easy, and I'm just really thankful that my husband was able to take 3 weeks of FMLA. I think my kids are home. So I'm going to wrap it up, but it's just been a really, really challenging recovery because of how hard my labor was, but I'm so happy to be here. I'm actually out of bed today and in my recliner. I got up to clean a little bit, but then he started crying, so I had to sit back down. And now he had a nummy and he's sleeping. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye, guys.